In this video, I'm going to be walking through the process of how to change the oil and oil filter on my 2007 Lexus IS 350. If you've always wondered how to do this yourself and maybe you want to try it at home, you've come to the right place. Hello and welcome back to Marty Motoring. Today I'm doing something basic that I probably should have made a video on a long time ago, and that's an oil change. Now this process is going to be very similar for any 2.5 liter or 3.5 liter V6 Toyota or Lexus really. So IS 250, IS 350, GS 350. The RX is a little bit different because the engine is turned sideways, but the concept is the same. All of the links for the products I'm using will be in the description below, so be sure to check those out. So a little backstory, when I first got my car, I was a little hesitant to do the oil change just because it was a Lexus and I didn't really know the platform, but as I learned more, I was more confident in it. Before I was taking it to the dealership and shops and they were kind of charging me different prices and using conventional oil, and I decided to switch to synthetic and do it myself. There's a lot of advantages with synthetic oil that I could go into, but that's not what this video is about. So really the science behind it is, it's better, it lasts longer, that's pretty much it. I wanted to have the peace of mind knowing I was using good products, doing it myself and doing it right. I wanted a little bit better for my car to make it last as long as possible. At first I used Mobil 1 and that was decent with the OEM filter. 4,000 to 5,000 miles is my oil change interval. I don't like to push it beyond that just because the filter gets dirty, the oil gets dirty, and these cars do burn a little bit of oil. But those oils were good, but Pennzoil just had some really good ratings. I decided to try it out, and now the car runs buttery smooth, and it's made from natural gas, which is kind of cool. But a lot of people for performance applications were running Pennzoil, so I decided to try it out, and I really like it. Now I am using a high mileage type of full synthetic oil for the additives, just because I do have the higher mileage. Quick note, if you want to switch to synthetic oil and you're currently running conventional, you don't want to go back to conventional once you switch to synthetic. Same thing with any type of high mileage blend or type of oil. If you use the regular and go to high mileage, you don't really want to go back because the high mileage additives will condition the seals and everything in the engine. When you put an oil that doesn't have that, there could be adverse effects like leaking, burning oil. You just want to stick with the same type of oil once you switch to it. So with all of that said, let's jump into it. So I have my Pennzoil Platinum high mileage full synthetic oil here. It's 2 5-quart jugs. Since the car takes 6.7 quarts, it's cheaper just to buy 10 quarts at once. For the oil filter, I'm using a K&N Performance Silver filter. It's pretty cheap online, it's made for synthetic oil, and it has a NASCAR logo on the box, so that means something. But it comes with the rubber O-rings and it works really well. Next, I need my ratchet and a special tool you'll need to purchase if you want to do this yourself, and that's the Toyota and Lexus oil filter wrench. It's for the end cap to access the oil filter. It just goes on a ratchet like this, and you can twist off the cap and access the oil filter. I also have a cheap funnel. You can get these pretty much anywhere, including the dollar store, and a 14mm socket that will be used to take out the oil drain plug. I also use these Harbor Freight Tool gloves. Anytime you're draining fluids from the car, you want a drain pan, and this one works nicely. Now, many people use a jack and jack stands, but I prefer race ramps. I built these wooden race ramps out of 2x10s from the hardware store. They work really well with lowered cars especially, and I like to use these just because it's a stable solution, and I can kind of adjust as I need to or go on certain levels. I'm going to be going on the top level today for maximum clearance. If you're going to go this route by yourself, you definitely want to pull up, adjust the ramp to be in line with the tires, and kind of do that every so often as you pull up, just to be safe. So we are now on the ramps in the garage. We're gonna open the hood. First thing we'll need is our oil pan. Slide it under there, and I'll show you more once we're under there, but first we'll need our 14mm to undo the bolt and drain the oil, and then we'll need this wrench to get the old filter out. We want to get our gloves on so we don't get all dirty and keep our hands clean from oil. So now we're good to go, and we're gonna start. So right there is our oil drain plug. So So we'll want to line this up kind of where the stream will go. So let's line that up. So it's a little tight down here, but you make do. Usually what I do, just because of space, is crack it loose. And then I just kind of use this until the very last second, so I can pull the bolt out and it doesn't fall in the oil. And it's going to start dripping, and that's why I have gloves, because it's hot. You want to get it out fast. And it's going to get all over your tool and everything. Oh well, we'll fish it out later with a magnet. That's what happens sometimes. You just want to let it all drain out. Also, I'm not sure if removing the oil cap actually does anything to help it drain, but I do that sometimes and just sit it like this so no debris goes in. So while that continues to drain, we can open up the oil filter door on the plastic cover. Now this plastic cover is actually aftermarket because we had some flooding about a year ago. The OEM one got pretty beat up and just wasn't really repairable, so I just ordered just the aftermarket one off eBay. So it works a little bit different than the OEM oil filter flap door. It just has some Phillips screws, which isn't as good, but it's just a cheap way to do it. So that's still draining. We're gonna give that a little bit and then we'll plug it back up. But here is the oil filter cap. This is what you use the wrench on, and then the oil filter's in here. And you just wanna pretty much unscrew this. Of course, you need a little bit of force. And the oil filter comes with two seals. One's for the inside, one's for the outside. So I'll show you how to put those on as well. But we will need the bucket because oil will drain out of here. So we're gonna plug that up first. Unfortunately, since I dropped the bolt in, I need to use the magnet tool. So it's harder under the car. Looks like we got a winner. It's good to have a couple shop rags and just clean all the oil off. Here's our bolt. It's nice and clean. You can optionally use the washers that you get from Toyota or Lexus. This is what those look like, and all you do is this before you put it back on. It's called a crush washer, and some people use them, some people don't. I just use them to be safe. Looks like it's a slow drip, so there's not that much old oil in there at this point. So I got the crush washers off just by doing this with the flathead. I just kind of do it hand tight, wipe away any residue, because we'll want to check for leaks later. And now we'll tighten it up. And I like to use the German torque spec good and tight. Of course, you don't want to over tighten this because that will cause a lot of issues. So I just kind of give it what it felt like when I took it off, which is it's kind of right there. I'm not sure of the exact torque spec on that, but yeah, that's not going anywhere. The crush washer is engaged, I guess you can call it. It's tight enough, it's not going to leak, but it's not too tight to where I can't remove it, and I stripped everything out. Now comes the fun part, the oil filter. I have the pan under it, ready to catch any oil. Oil filter wrench goes on like this. You pretty much get it locked on and pull. There it is. You'll see the oil start to drain. Probably take this off and just do it by hand. That's usually what I do. You just pull the whole cartridge out. And that is your oil filter. This is now done. It's going in the oil. And what I'd like to do is dump any remaining oil out and then clean this all up. So once you have this off the car and cleaned up, I usually just use a shop rag. You take your oil filter, and I'm not sure if there's no real like upside down or whatever. Put it on like this. Just kind of get it as snug as it can be. Also, there's two rubber gaskets that come with the oil filter. One goes here, and I just replaced this one off camera, but you just slide it on. You can take the old one off. Helps to have one of these screwdrivers. You pop it off, pop the new one on, the new gasket, and you're good to go. Now I do change my oil every 4,000 to 5,000 miles. Now some people go like 10,000 miles, and that's kind of crazy to me. just seeing how dirty the oil was. Line everything up. So now that we got the oil pan out of the way so we don't drop anything into it, now we just wanna, yep, that's all it's going. And sometimes it's kind of hard to get this off. Just kind of wiggle it off. So we just drained the oil and we put this back on with the new filter. So now we can fill it up with fresh oil. Take the oil cap off and we'll get our funnel. Now this car takes 6.7 quarts. So this being 5 quarts, we can just put the whole thing in. Since we put 5 in, we need almost 2 additional more quarts. So usually what I do is the 5 plus 2 is 7. So I usually put in till just above 3, between 3.5 and 3. That's in your 6.5 to 7 range. You want to get right in between there. If you go to 3, it's not that bad really. You're just adding 2 additional quarts to the 5 you already put in, which is 7. Some of these engines are known to burn oil. Mine burns a very small amount every 4,000 to 5,000 miles. So it's not really a bad thing to put that much, you just don't want to put more than that. So now we're at about 3.5, we'll go a little bit more. Okay, we're getting closer. And now we're just above 3, so we put a little more than 6.7, but that's not going to hurt it. We'll put our oil cap back on. I am leaving the door off so I can check for leaks once I start it up. But as soon as it's good to go, I'll put that back on. It looks pretty dry and good to me. Lastly, once you started it up and you're finished, you want to check the dipstick and just make sure the oil level is showing. It's hard to see, but it's all the way up and it's clean. And we can check it later once we run it and we're on a more level surface, but just something you should check afterwards. Also worth noting, you can put your old used oil back into the containers you got them in and bring them to your local auto parts store for recycling. Alright, so the cover's back on, we got fresh oil in it, we started it up, we checked for leaks, everything. The oil change is done. Now I'll show you how to reset the oil maintenance required light and also how you can log your oil changes so that you can keep track of them. I've never been a fan of the windshield sticker. I just don't like it, even though I have this black banner to kind of hide it. I'd rather just keep it clean. So to reset the oil maintenance light without hitting the brake pedal, you want to turn it on while hitting this button and it'll do kind of a loading screen. Now the car's not starting, but it'll do the little blinking there. And there you go. All the lights will come on, so no worries. My check VSC is on for an ABS sensor that I replaced, and I guess it's not the sensor like the Toyota TechStream software said, or there's something wrong with the sensor or the wire. So that's an electronic issue I'll have to dive into. No big deal. All it does is light up this light and disable ABS, which is fine for right now in the summer. So now we'll start the car. So if you go into the info screen, you have a maintenance button and you have engine oil. I don't really use this, but it's another cool thing to remind you, and then the system will say, hey, you have an oil change coming up, and it'll say select your dealer or whatever, but you don't have to, obviously, if you're doing it yourself. For this, I will hit reset. So say I wanted to set it. I'm at 176,224 miles right now. Change the distance to 4,000. It presets that date, but at least it'll remind us. So that's one way to kind of keep track of it. Obviously writing it down on a logbook, but I prefer LexusDrivers.com. I can log on to LexusDrivers.com, enter my maintenance item and some information since I did it myself. And it's just kind of a nice way to keep records on your car electronically, and when you go to a Toyota dealership or Lexus dealership that pulls up that information, they can see when the last maintenance was done, and you can put details in there. Just an easy way to keep track of it. The concept is simple. You drain the oil, You change the filter, you fill it with the oil of your choice, and everything keeps running smoothly, efficiently, and your car can last for a long time. All the products are readily available on Amazon.com, and I've provided those links in the description below. If you liked this video and found it helpful, give it a thumbs up, hit subscribe to follow along with the channel, and click that little bell icon to be notified of when I do upload new videos. So comment below and let me know what other videos you'd like to see. Be sure to follow me on Instagram for the latest updates at Marty Motoring. And as always, leave a little rubber on the road. Just did an oil change on that ISF not too long ago, and that was pretty much the same process as this.